Welcome back to Arise News Now. I'm Francesca Maxime. Well, protests have taken place worldwide in Boston, Chicago, LA, Brussels, and London. The call was for the Turkish government to stop its anti-democratic behavior and release detained journalists. In the latest round of attacks on news media in Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan issued warrants for the arrest of journalists in an attempt to wipe out the influence of Sunni cleric Fethullah Gulen, who lives in exile in Pennsylvania. Now, the arrests are on the claims that they were plotting to seize state power or forming an armed organization to support terrorists. However, some are saying that these claims are trumped up and they're intended to actually divert attention from a crackdown by President Erdogan on his critics and rivals, specifically that Turkish scholar Fethullah Gulen. And the real threat at stake is really Turkey's democracy. That's really the question. Joining us now in the studio is Kerim Balci. He's a journalist from the Turkish Review. Thanks so much for joining us here on Arise News Now. First of all, why is there so much distrust between Erdogan and Gulen? They used to be friends, but we know that now they are rivals.
Well, the point is they used to be friends because Mr. Erdogan, while he was a prime minister, he was doing exactly what the Turkish people wanted and what the people voted for. But unfortunately, for the last 2 years, Prime Minister Erdogan and later President-elect Erdogan has actually split altogether from his former reform policies, European Union membership process, further democratization of the country. So it was no way for the Gülen movement or the newspapers that are supported by the movement to continue with him. Actually, this trust is coming from the change of behavior at the side of the president.
We do know that Fethullah Gulen has millions of followers all around the world and a lot of support, and this rift, as we say, continues to divide them. With the arrest of these journalists, isn't it sort of contrary to what Erdogan says he wants, which is democracy? Well,
in fact, in the language of Mr. Erdogan, democracy is a kind of means. It is not the end. In 1996, he had said once that democracy is a train. We get on the train and get off on the station that we want to reach. So it seems that Mr. Erdogan has already reached the station that he wanted to arrive through democracy, through election, and it is full control of the Turkish government, and he's turning into a dictator.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems to look like to a lot of folks, including the EU. How's he still in office?
Well, the point is, the Turkish people love strong leaders, and the Turkish people actually have fallen into the rhetoric that he's using against Israel, against the occupation of Palestinian lands, against American imperialism, and so on. So he's quite a populist leader, and he is able to, economically speaking, to spend a lot for the elections, and the people are still supporting his position. But the point is, through the support he's getting, he's becoming even more and more dictator, and we are losing as the country.
Well, we know that your name is actually on the list of journalists that are set to be arrested, and you're set to leave New York City and go back to Turkey tomorrow. What do you expect will happen there?
Well, there are tweet leaks that are claiming that on the 25th there are going to be further arrests. This is the anniversary of last year's corruption operation against the Prime Minister and his son. So it is most probable that he is going to do something in order to divert attention from the anniversary of the corruption scandal, and people not to speak the corruption issues. So there may be arrest, and yes, indeed, my name is on the list, but I believe we have to go back to our country, and if we are going to be arrested, this is a part of our fight for the democracy of the country.
Well, we wish you well and safe travels, and thanks so much for joining us here on Arise News Now.
Thank you.
And you're watching Arise News Now.